Hi, this is Ginger Cook, and today for my Ginger Snap I want to talk to you about how to use colored gesso. There's many brands of colored gesso. I'm just going to kind of feature a couple here. Matisse makes a gesso, and I think there's over 20 colors. I didn't bother to count, but there's a lot of different ones. Liquitex makes a really wonderful black gesso and some other colors. You can find those at at your art store. Now, most people, when they think about gesso, they think about, you ask people, think about white gesso, which is the most common. But so when would you use a colored gesso, and why would you want it? Well, maybe you just want to paint over a canvas. Here's a couple of little 9x12 canvases, and we all have some of those. But what if you have a canvas that you just don't like anymore, and you want to do it again, and you would feel better if you could just paint over it? Or what if you want to tone a canvas, like say something like this for a sunset? So here's a canvas that's already dried, and I'm going to show you how I painted it. I used this cream color, and I painted over it, and if I was worried about this showing through, which I'm not, I'd give it a second coat. This dried just in the air for about 20 minutes, or I could have used a hairdryer on it. So in this video, I'm just going to show you some quick tips on how to use colored gesso and why it might be important to you. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just taking a little cream gesso from Matisse, and I'm painting over this canvas. I want to use it again. I kind of had this as sort of an example canvas for something, I don't remember what, but I don't really want any of these marks on here, so I'm just taking a regular number 8 ruby satin silver brush and just painting over this and letting this dry. And as long as I'm fooling around with canvases, I want you to just see how you can, it doesn't have to be white gesso. Gesso comes in colors, comes in all different colors. There must be 50 colors that Matisse has. There's an orange if you were doing a sunset. I don't know what I'm going to do on this canvas, but I just thought this is sort of like a little bonus tip. I'm just going to take some canvases and paint over them. And everybody thinks you need to use white gesso, and sometimes it's nice just to have a little tone on it like this, and you can see how easily this is painting over. Now, if I was doing something very, very smooth, I might let this dry for several hours and then sand it and do another coat. That might be okay. I've got another one, we might dry that. I've got another little canvas here that's blue. All right, I'm just going to move that out of the way. Now, and let's see, what if I were to, there's nothing wrong. I could use this blue. I probably wouldn't have to paint over this. I have some chalk on it. All I'd have to do would be just take a damp rag and erase the chalk. Now, this is why we go over canvas with chalk. Because you can just do this. Now look, I've just erased the chalk. Now this canvas is not anything I'd worry about. I could certainly paint over this. But if I didn't want to, suppose I wanted a different color. Yellow's a tough one. Let's try this daisy yellow. Let's just do that. See what it does over blue. And let's just do that. This is the Matisse. Actually, it's a gesso. So you're going to take another large brush, and I'm just going to show you here. Now look what happens. You see? Because we're going over blue, it's not going to paint over that. Do you guys see that? You're not going to get yellow over this blue. It just can't do it. Yellow, even in a gesso, only paints over white. So I think this is a good example of, because you think, well, I'll just paint this yellow over this canvas. Now, when this one dries, I could paint yellow over that. And someone said, well, if you stirred it, would that be better? Well, let's just for the fun of it, let's just, here, I'm just going to take a pencil, and I'm really going to stir this, okay? I'm just going to really, really stir it and see if maybe it just wasn't stirred enough. And would that make a difference? I don't think it will, but let's just, for the sake of this, let's just stir it. Now, did we get any more? No. You see that? See how the green's coming through? Yellow and blue make green, so now it looks like I've got a green kind of weird background. So this is not as effective. Here, now we're just going to change brushes now. We're going to go back to this other cream gesso. I'm just going to put this here. That was called Daisy Yellow. Here's cream over this one, like that. Now look how beautifully this is covering this canvas. All right. Now I'm just going to dump some on here like this. Now watch here. I can blend in some of this cream into the yellow, and I can kind of tint the cream. I could have tinted it with paint too. But, alright, now I can paint over this a little bit because it's a little more opaque when I'm doing that. And I'm just going to dump a little bit on here like that because I had quite a bit. Alright, now I'm just going to smooth this out like this. Come down. Probably put too much. That's alright. I don't want to put that back in the jar. What'll I do with that? Hang on a second. Let me think for a minute. Well, I'll do something with it. Let me just I want you to see. Now, you wouldn't want it this thick. But I want you to see the difference between, say, the cream gesso, and even though it says Daisy Yellow, it did not paint over something blue. Now, obviously, you don't want this much gesso, so we're just going to pull some off here like this. I'll just scoop some off and put it on a piece of paper like that, see? Because I got a little carried away when I dumped the jar on there. But I want you to see the difference. Because I think if I didn't know that, I'd be very disappointed. I think, well, here's some yellow gesso. I've got this dark canvas. I'm going to now turn it yellow. And if it isn't going yellow, I'm going to feel a little, I don't know, kind of mad. But don't be mad. Just know that it just can't do it. So now we're just going to take this one like this. This is still, I almost need to take a palette knife and kind of scrape off some of this. I really did get too much on here. There. Now I'll spread this around like this. But the yellow is much more translucent. You can see that, right? Much more translucent than the cream. So the cream is I would just say for general gesso, I like the cream like that. I like this cream color, and I probably would. You could maybe go over a white canvas. Let's try that for just for the fun of it. This is a good, this is a good ginger snap how to do this. All right, so we're going to say that. All right, here's my cream, which I've sort of made a huge mess of, but that's okay. The nice thing about painting with me is, I've always got messes going, and you won't feel so bad about your mess, because well, Ginger always has messes. Okay, so this one, I sort of tinted yellow by putting the cream in. Now, let's just take a piece of, suppose you just had a white canvas. Yellow's a very expensive color, all right? So suppose you just had a little white canvas, and you wanted to paint it white, okay? So, or yellow, all right? So here's just a piece of canvas like this. Let's move this one out of the way. I'm going to pick up this whole kind of messy here. You can see this little blue corner. It covered pretty well, didn't it? So I'm going to move, like I say, I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to move this right here and take a clean brush. And we're going to just take some of this yellow, which we stirred. Probably isn't a terrible idea to stir these. And now I'm going to do yellow. Now look how beautiful that yellow is covering a white canvas. So what would you want the yellow gesso for? Well, maybe you were going to do a sunset, and you said, well, I want a nice sunset, and yellow is one of your most expensive paints. And so if you need to tone the canvas, this would be a good solution because the gessos are much less expensive. All right, now see how I have a nice tone on that. When this dries, this will be ready to paint. So people say, well, when would I use colored gesso? And how does it work? And so that's your ginger snap today, is how do I use, how do I use a colored gesso? And I think that that's a really good one. And let me just take that pencil and put that out of the way. And make sure you keep the lids on these things. This would probably last a long time. Just make sure you've sealed them up well. So these are colored gesso by Matisse. I think there's I don't know, there's tons of colors. You just have to decide which ones you like. You might like a neutral gray. I have to say that the manager of Jerry's told me they really like cream. So that's kind of cool. So I want to thank you for watching, and if you want to see more videos on how you'd actually turn something like this into a painting, I want to invite you to come over to my website, gingercooklive.gallery, where we have online lessons on all kinds of things that you can watch step by step in the videos. So this was a fun one, a ginger snap for the day, how to use colored gesso.